as our journey is going to take about 25 minutes and certainly covers 2.5 miles of Africa, but to give you a chance to appreciate some of the features that we definitely want you to be aware of. Doors on either side of us are simply latched, so I wouldn't sit on them or lean on them. They'll pop open otherwise. And if you do stand, please do it when the vehicle fully stops. And of course, if ever there's a medical emergency, the trailing cars can look on the ceiling for a yellow strip to press and hold that gets the medic's attention in mind. Those right behind you just tap on the window and say, "Carol, I need the medic." We'll get you the same help. Appreciating a South African cheetah as it walks by us on the right side. Maybe getting a glimpse of her sister ahead of her. We'll stop at the end of this run.
Yeah, that was running,
These cats are definitely an impressive sight. Having had about 130 births in our history is a commendable statistic. But if you walk 5 minutes from the station taking the Africa Loop Trail, you can stay for a whole lot longer and enjoy them, because the tram really concentrates on anything but the foot trails, really. Goes out beyond where all these can be seen easily by you a little bit later. The field looks like this on the left. That's East Africa, but we'll talk about it on the return trip. Passing up the largest flamboyance of flamingos in captivity in the U.S., our greater flamingos on the right. And as we head over the hill, we'll be maybe 3 minutes from South Africa itself. Wave to our staff as we roll on down the road, over the hill, and maybe get lucky enough to see some of the black rhinos that we have first. Now, animals that are on the right are going to be more endangered or more sensitive. The rest are in the field enclosure, and most of them are deemed conservation dependent. In other words, the land is there. If it is there, then they can stay in the wild. And barring human conflict and poaching, of course, we've returned 33 species to the wild because we've worked with 36 countries over the years. So that makes sense. As a collaboration globally, making a difference. Now, as aloof as the black rhino are, they sometimes aren't visible at all. So with one, at least, out of the two in here, appreciating the moment. There are only about 2,500 of these left, so critically endangered is the status, and of course, it's the horn that's the cause, because of the fact that people still poach them thinking the horn's magic. And I've heard everything from a cure for fever to an aphrodisiac, and others simply carve it into dagger handles as status symbols. So if that would cease, it'd be superb. And we've had only 14 births in our history. As South Africa on the left has a fondness to all of us that have been here a while, it is the first enclosure we ever put together. We actually brought out 300 animals from the San Diego Zoo, which of course is our sister, put them in here without cages between each species, and that intent was the brainchild of Dr. Schroeder, who was our zoo director. He said if you're going to breed them successfully, put them in a large place like they are in the wild, and let the scientists study them, share the knowledge with other zoos, and they then reciprocate. Of course, the births obviously would be shared, and it went from there. So as a non-profit organization, it is an impressive venture, I'll tell you. Nonetheless, we keep working towards efforts to save the land because that's paramount to their survival.
It's the diesel. It's diesel. It's from the cart.
Now, if you pull into a section where you can see a bit of South Africa on the left, we're also going to see some marshland exhibit on the right. So as a preference, we're going to start there. Sometimes you get lucky enough to see the 6 species of birds that are in here. And early in the morning is probably the best. So if you look to the right at the waterfall, you get a glimpse of some of the 4.5-foot Goliath heron. Ruppel's vultures in the middle, sitting on those rocks. And if you look carefully enough to the right of the waterfall, you'll see a nest where one of our Ruppel's vulture is tending to the chick that was born about 2.5 weeks ago. So it's a nice mix, and certainly an aesthetically appealing enclosure for the other 3 species. But depends on where you are in the train, and I don't want to frustrate you by talking about things only 1 or 2 of us can see. So with that, let's try to visualize the Ellipsan waterbuck on the left.
I'm just trying to take pictures.
Curiosity is endless out here on the part of each species, and when the turkey vultures have landed next to the lagoon, the Ellipsan waterbuck are taking full note. Circles of white define the Ellipsan waterbuck to the youngsters that follow the adults in tall grasses near the waterways where they dwell. So it's a very effective way of being visual to members of your herd. And whether it's color, markings, or behaviors that allow them to do that, it is incredible how animals can handle their environments they're in. Tan is a color, of course, that'll blend in with any dirt. So if you look to the right at the Somerang's gazelle, they will. But so will the color rust on the sable antelope to our left. If they're in green, predators with limited color vision can't tell they're there because green and rust looks identical. So for the male that's darker and larger by about 1/3 than the rest, he definitely sits to the left in his alert circle, with the others sitting facing different directions, just as they would in the wild, preventing predators from sneaking up on them. They do it instinctively, though here in a large setting. The benefit of having a large section for these as necessary for their movement in the wild, they move from one location to the other in here as well during the day. Eland are the larger antelope found everywhere in Africa, and maybe that's why they're currently trying to domesticate them for their meat and milk. These specifically are Patterson's eland. Southern white rhino we will stop adjacent to. And our emblem is the southern white rhino because we've had 93 births in our 40-year history. There were only about 50 of them left in the 1800s, and it took human intervention to turn it around. Now they're about 20,000. So when people do intervene, it can be of benefit. And as for the lavender with black markings, black mask, those are some of our South African oryx sitting in a strategic location, knowing how difficult it is to view them when they're behind this boma. And that's another benefit to having a big section for them. They can disappear if they want to. But on the right, that color, similar to the South African oryx, shows up again on the equid from Somalia above us on the right. Trouble with this species is human, because in poor economy in Somalia, they're being used for financial gain or a food source. So not only is it troubling, but verifies that you got to bolster people's economies, or that'll continue negatively for sure. Seldom, if ever, do we see them at this point in the day, so it's nice to be able to show you these on the right. But on the left side, wildebeest, common in Africa, we still need the Serengeti and the Masai Mara area for their migration. So we know it's about land. And of course, anything beyond the middle we'll share with you from the other side, despite the fact that you can at least see the Maasai giraffe from here, but we'll talk about them in a minute. As a few of them are closer yet to the Cape buffalo, we will stop adjacent to both on our left. And of all the species, Cape buffalo are one of the ones that are known for their ability to defend themselves even from a lion, because if a lion takes one on, the whole herd mob attacks him, so they pretty much have that skill down beautifully for defense. But as for a giraffe, its defense is, well, not only its height, but the legs can really go 8 to 10 feet in any radius and kick really well. The head can act like an anvil, and with their height advantage of 18 feet, they can see predators come in first and alert others in other herds of that need to protect themselves defensively. But as we leave the Maasai giraffe and you look to the right above us at the mountain habitat, try to find any of our Nubian ibex, Barbary sheep, or blue sheep. It is a challenge, and of course with 24 up there, The keepers have the challenge every day of counting them. So when they do climb this place on a daily basis, they know full well those goats and sheep can get up to the top in 15 seconds without slipping, unlike them. For the Nubian ibex, Barbary sheep, and blue sheep, this is a perfect setting and all natural. The bushes, though we're on it once, definitely don't stay for very long, because then, of course, they'll eat it. And attached to the fence line, not permanently, is a visiting, looks like hawk or a young golden eagle on the fence above us, so I don't know, I think it's a hawk. That's why we saved 800 acres around us, so we could see the wildlife for a long time. That's a beautiful sight.